Welcome to Section 2, Deep Dive into the Kubernetes Control Plane. In this section, we are going to go deep into the inner workings of the Kubernetes brain, the control plane. I will show you how the components running on the Kubernetes master nodes work from a networking perspective. By the end of this section, you should have a good understanding of the networking aspects of the processes running in a Kubernetes master node. In this video, we will start from one of the most important components of the Kubernetes ecosystem, the Kubernetes API server. I will show you how it works under the hood and how the component interacts with all of the processes and components of a Kubernetes cluster. But before we do that, we can't do any work until we have a Kubernetes cluster. So what I'm going to do now is to just do that, launch a Kubernetes cluster locally on my machine. To do that, I will use the code you will have available as part of this course. Let's switch to the terminal window now. From the terminal window, I am going to issue the vagrant up command so that Vagrant will start the process of creating the Kubernetes cluster locally on my machine. Vagrant will now start the process of creating the Kubernetes cluster locally. Oracle VirtualBox will be the hypervisor used by Vagrant to create the local Kubernetes cluster nodes or VMs, and Ansible will provision the resources inside the VMs. Let's wait for the process to finish. Okay, with the cluster up and running locally, let's start by exploring the API server. I will now SSH into the master node running locally. If all went well, I should be able to get the cluster information via the kubectl command line utility after I SSH'd in. Okay, now that I am inside the Kubernetes master node, let's run the kubectl command line utility command. What we've just seen is our very first interaction with the API server. You will notice the API server as an endpoint. Let's try to access that with curl. As you can see, the curl command fails because it can't recognize the certificate authority of the certificate served by the API server. That's normal. Kubernetes generates its own CA certificates to operate and secure the communication between its components. Let's now test whether the API server returns something. To test this, I will pass the insecure flag to curl. This is something you should never do in real life or on production systems. It's saying the request was forbidden and we are not authenticated with the API server. That's expected, but this proved that we can interact with the API server effectively, and given that we are now on the master node itself, we should also be able to reach the API server via localhost, obviously. Let's try that. And as expected, we get the same response. Now let's try to contact the API server from outside the master node itself. What I will do now is to exit from the VM and run the same curl command that I just used, but without the localhost point. As you can see, we can still reach the API server. Trying to access it via localhost should now fail. Let's try that. And as expected, we can't talk to the API server because it's not local to where we currently are. Now let's go back to the master node and explore the API servers a little bit more. If we take a look at the processes running on the master node, we should see the kube API server process running. Let's try. You can see the process is there and running. That's the actual API server that we are talking about. There is a large number of launch parameters passed to the process, and in reality, the API server supports an even bigger number of launch parameters. I won't go into the details of them all, as you can find a detailed explanation of each of those parameters on the official documentation. But let's go through some of the ones that we can see now that relate to the API server networking aspects. For example, notice the advertise address parameter. It has a specific IP address. And if you remember from previous command issued, you will notice the IP is the same as the one returned by the kubectl cluster info command I ran earlier. That flag is there to tell Kubernetes where to advertise the API server. The IP, as we have seen, has to be reachable by the rest of the cluster. In a production environment, you would want to restrict access to the API server to only the worker nodes or to the cluster administrators only via VPN perhaps. Another API server process parameter worth noticing is the etcd servers one. That parameter specifies the address and the port at which the etcd process is listening to. We will cover the etcd in the next video. Then, another important parameter from a networking perspective is the service cluster IP range. you can see that it has a specific CIDR range specified to it. Service resources which we will create later on will be assigned an IP taken from this CIDR range. It's very important that the range specified in this parameter does not overlap with any IP ranges assigned to nodes for pods. You can explore the API server API endpoints as they are accessible once authenticated. For example, it is possible to get the status of the API server itself by calling its health endpoint. Let's try that. As you can see, it replied OK. Another thing that you can do is to get the list of available resource-specific endpoints. Or, something else you can do is to list the APIs available and enabled. But in order to get the information about the cluster resources, you will have to be properly authenticated. For example, as an anonymous user, in this instance, I will not be able to get the status of all services running in the cluster. Let's try that. As you can see, I am not authenticated and therefore I cannot access that resource, but I can access it via the kubectl utility, as that acts as an authenticated entity.